films, another film that is, I guess, somewhat blurring the line between documentary and sort of fictional narrative film
Good segue.
is Häxan,
Yeah.
or
Or
I guess
maybe in Swedish like Häxan.
maybe. Yeah, I'm not sure what the umlaut uh, really what how to properly pronounce the accent.
It means witch. A
Yeah.
hexer. One who hexes you.
Mm. And this is a Scandinavian film. I believe it was
I think it's Swedish.
a Swedish film, but by a Danish director,
Okay.
Benjamin Christensen. This is a weird movie.
Yes.
Just in terms
it's
of
very strange.
its structure and like what it's even how it's like using filmmaking in terms of trying to tell a story, because it's like it's on one hand it feels almost sort of like an academic presentation.
Yeah. The first
And
reel of this movie is just straight up a PowerPoint.
yeah, of like old woodcut illustrations and intertitles just kind of explaining some of the history of folklore and witchcraft in the Middle Ages and like where it comes from and all that stuff. And then it gets into sort of, filmed, scripted, like recreations, I guess, of different points in history to kind of try to tell a story of witchcraft and sort of how it was seen in different points in history. And then at the end, it's sort of recreating more contemporary stuff in an attempt to sort of show what I guess, a contemporary understanding of the things that was blamed on witchcraft in the Middle Ages. It's super ambitious. It doesn't really feel like anything else we've watched because of its sort of
like structurally.
Yeah, it's like weird mix of like academic presentation and like straight up like bug nuts horror movie.
Yeah, it's the same time it's like it's trying to be like educational and academic, but also like lurid and like extreme.
Yeah. It is one of the more like lurid, almost kind of like nasty movies we've watched, just in terms of like the stuff that it's showing on screen.
Yeah.
One thing about this movie that I think we both did not like is the score that exists for it.
Yeah.
Which it is mostly like classical pieces, like classical music, like pre-existing classical music. But it's supposedly it's what was originally played live for this movie.
Oh, really?
Or it's the closest thing to what because the original like score for it is lost, but then there was a later premiere that had this score on it, or this score was played over it. So it's like the closest assumed thing to the original score, but I didn't much care for it. It felt way too whimsical and lighthearted for
get a spooky synthesizer guy to write a score for this.
This movie is very spooky, and the score doesn't really support that. A lot of wild images in this movie.
Yeah.
This movie I've been waiting since before we started the show to watch. It's been a movie I've been wanting to watch for a long time. And
How'd you like
when we started the show, I was like, I should just wait until we get to it. It lived up. I think it was possibly an even weirder movie than I was expecting.
Yeah.
And I think the sort of craziness of the imagery lived up to the hype for sure. There's stuff in this that like made me gasp.
Yeah. People. I mean, it would make you gasp to see people dancing on a crucifix, disrespect and spitting on it, disrespect.
That less so.
Kissing the devil's bottom.
That didn't make me gasp, but I was like, that's not something I've seen in film up to this point.
It has a bit of a Méliès sensibility to it, because I think that even this like horrific stuff is playful.
Yes, yeah, for
like,
sure.
Like the tone going on in this movie is kind of like wild, because like we're saying, it's like this mix of academic and like lurid imagery demonstrating what witches' Black Sabbaths were like, or whatever.
Well, to demonstrate what the perception of witches' Black Sabbaths were like in the Middle Ages, right? It's like a lot of the images that are shot later on are recreations of like the woodcut illustrations from the first reel. So they're sort of like based on contemporary like Christian understandings of witchcraft and like that sort of thing. So they're all these like very extreme, dancing in the forest with demons and kissing Satan's butt and eating babies and ghost horses.
That stuff's cool to see, though. Like,
it is.
Yeah. But like the thing is, like, while the movie, through like its structure and through its intertitles, is not presenting these things as something that you are like putting yourself into, like the story of a narrative film. It's something that you're kind of like pulled back observing. It calls attention to this in a number of ways, where through the intertitles, it's always going like, we live in a civilized age where we don't believe in things like the devil and hell and witches. We have science and we're smart and enlightened or whatever, which is really interesting. Like, this movie is almost like presenting itself as like post-religious, which I don't really know like what the situation was in Scandinavia at the time, but I would think that there was still like a pretty, sizable contingent of religious people. But maybe they don't want to watch this movie because it's too demonic.
Yeah. Which I think that was sort of a response to it when it came out. It was like, this movie is demonic and evil and people shouldn't be allowed to watch it. The intertitles in this feel more like they're almost like directly addressing the audience in a way that most intertitles aren't. They're sort of very kind of like third person narration. Whereas this is sort of like,
it's like, I am making a presentation to you, the audience.
Yes.
And but like another way that it's kind of calling attention to the artifice of what it's putting in front of you is there's a scene where the intertitles say like, one of my actresses wanted to try one of these torture devices, it's like saying like, here is somebody who's playing a character in the movie being herself on screen.
Yeah. Oh, the torture devices. We'll get into that in a second. But, I think this movie is more about, like, persecution than I expected it to be. I expected it to be a pretty sort of, like, it's just sort of a bunch of scenes of witchcraft through different time periods. And it is very much, the sort of main thread, or sort of, like, thesis of it, is how witchcraft was used as a sort of scapegoat and a way to, like, by the sort of people in power in the Middle Ages to persecute people.
Not just that, but like, it is saying that we still do this just under a different name, which I think is wild. It's like a really like it's a really woke movie, like it like
the Republicans would hate this film.
Yeah, it's basically saying like, it's drawing this direct comparison between the way that we treated witches back in the day and the way that we treat women now.
Now being 1922.
Yeah, but like still,
Right.
Like,
well, yeah, because it brings up the idea of the like medical diagnosis of hysteria, which that was before the 20s, but I think it might have still been in practice in the 20s of like, a woman doing something that her husband doesn't like, and it's like, oh, she's hysterical. Give her, cocaine pills or whatever. And it sort of like is comparing sort of like medieval dungeons to contemporary like asylums and that kind of thing.
Yeah, and it's basically saying like, we're no better now. Like it's saying like we've got like a nice coat of paint on it, but we still treat mentally ill people in like an inhuman way, like we did back in the day. And it's also saying that like, women back then and now face issues for being too ugly or too pretty,
Yeah.
It's I mean, I think I really like what this movie has to say.
Me too. I did not really expect that from it. Or it's sort of it's sort of big like the points it's trying to make I thought were really feel very progressive for the time, I think. Um and I don't know, it gets into so much more kind of like nuance than I'm used to seeing from movies from this time period too. With like uh just the idea that like people who are accused and executed for being witches, it like you could be an old woman and be accused of being a witch. You could be a young woman and be accused of being a witch. You could be a man and be accused of being a witch. It was like not there were no consistent rules because it was just being used as a form of like oppression against people.
Yeah, which is
Um,
a lot for a movie to say when it has a lot of shots of the devil going like
yeah, the devil, who is played by the director Benjamin Christensen, in really incredible makeup. I think like I really like how I like his performance as the devil. It's very silly and over the top.
Yeah, it's
But
good.
like there's the one like very famous shot of this movie of him sort of like popping up from behind a book and like reaching his clawed hands over it, and it's really an effectively very spooky looking shot, mostly due to the lighting. But
Hmm.
this movie looks amazing. Also, like the lighting of it, it's like it's much more shadowy than a lot of movies. I think it uses close-ups really well. There's a lot of really great close-ups of people acting and reacting to things that are
Yeah.
like really powerful in certain places.
Yeah, there's a part where an old woman is just kind of randomly accused of being a witch, and it follows like her getting, arrested and tortured and everything like
Mhm.
this. Maria the Weaver, and there are these scenes that are like close-ups on her face where like
Mm.
you really feel for her. I think the woman playing her does an amazing job because like she is being tortured and you like see that in her
Yeah.
face. It's like it's like upsetting.
Yeah. Yeah, the way this movie uses close-ups of people's faces is it's not a new thing. Like we've seen close-ups before, but like just the way it's used in this movie really struck me. And it feels very modern in certain places because of that, because of just the way that it really holds on people's faces very close up. Um,
Often in
there,
anguish.
yeah, yeah. I mean, there's a lot of anguish in this movie. Yeah. There's going back to the you mentioned how there's this kind of brief interlude just about like medieval torture devices, and
Sick.
it's sort of academically just like showing them to you, but in such a way that makes each one like the power of suggestion in all of these is incredible because they're just very plainly like here's a close-up shot of like thumb screws or some weird like there's like a block that they strap your hand to and then it's just like they just bring a hammer into the frame and your mind does the rest of like the amount of way they can just show very plainly like the implications of each of these torture devices without actually showing them a practice at all, I thought was really effective.
Hmm.
Like every single time they showed one, I'm just like I started wincing. I'm just like this looks terrible because like it's just your mind doing the rest. Like once you see how it works, then your imagination goes off and you're like, "Oh my god, that is horrifying."
Mhm.
Um this is a very dark movie. Um like there's a lot of stuff in it where I was surprised at how dark it went. Um and yeah, like the for all of its depictions of like these, horned demons and like giving birth to demon babies and things.
That was cool.
Very cool. I think it really sort of uh, uh, it really presents the idea that like it's the primarily like the men in power who are the real devils. Um,
And it has a
there's a
lot of sympathy for persecuted people.
mhm,
And you know, uh, and it has sympathy for people who are the victims of sexism. It has sympathy for mentally ill people.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
There's a bit where there's the judges of the Spanish Inquisition. There are these, medieval judges going around accusing people of witchcraft. And there's an intertitle that says something along the lines of, "The witch plague ravages wherever the judges go." Being like, wherever these guys show up, they find witchcraft somewhere because, they're just accusing people left and right. Yeah, there's, trying to think of what else, my other, big takes on it.
I mean, I would say also that I have, and this movie kind of invites it because it tells you about the artifice of what's happening, but I have
Mm-hmm.
I have questions about how I don't know, sound a lot of the things that it's saying are. It's not, it's like Nanook, it is taking these kind of bigger concepts and making them, condensing them into a story that is typical but not precise, right?
Yeah.
But
it's more, I think it's more leaning into the fact that it's creating a narrative whole cloth than Nanook does.
But also I wonder it knows, it makes the viewer aware that it's creating a narrative, but it says that it's doing it in the service of education or something like that, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I think that all of the lurid stuff and extreme stuff in this movie makes me doubt its intentions a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
It makes me think that maybe sometimes it's gonna pick something that's a little less historically accurate. Maybe for example, they don't have an Iron Maiden in the movie, but the Iron Maiden was not used as a torture device, right?
Yeah.
But it seems like it's the kind of thing that it would just leave in because it's cool,
Mm-hmm.
And so it I think the stuff that's valid about the movie are its I don't know, philosophical things that it's saying, and the and just the kind of appeal of the imagery on screen.
Mm-hmm.
But I have doubts about the soundness of its academic aspect.
Yeah, I think especially when it gets towards the end and it's talking about this sort of more contemporary stuff, that to me I was like, oh well, this feels somehow, even though it's talking about newer things, it feels more old fashioned. Because it's sort of it's coming at it from a place of a 1922 understanding of mental health, which is obviously, it's developed since then.
Yeah.
And so there's a lot of things where it doesn't really have, I think, even the kind of as clear a vocabulary as we do now to talk about.
It's also just hard to find good information about witches. I've been to a couple of witchcraft museums, but they're usually run by witches. So their perspective is I don't know. It's historical, but it's also theological. And I don't know where one, it's hard to know where one ends and where the other begins, and so it's hard to know what to trust in a witchcraft museum.
Yeah.
And there's just a lot of loose information floating around about a lot of that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I feel like so much of the sort of general understanding of of witches comes from Christian propaganda of basically just being used as a tool to oppress people.
Yeah.
And then on the other hand, it's then there's almost a counterbalance of people who are actually practicing the spiritual practices of Wicca or actual witchcraft stuff, is we want to counteract all of the bad press, and so then it's trying to find a pretty clear, unfiltered information about it can be tough.
Yeah.